What's up everybody, Oxyblock here again, and we are back with the Average Joe Redstone series. As you may know, these are a series that are going to be looking at redstone components, explaining a little bit more in depth what they do, what they're meant to do, what you can use them for, so that we can understand other people's constructions and we can start getting an idea on how to create our own. Today, as you can see behind me, we're going to be talking about piston, and sticky piston, and also a little bit about quasi connectivity. Now, that's a big term. A lot of times it's scary. It can make it look like it's complicated, and I'm not gonna lie, it kind of is. But hopefully, after this video, you guys can get a better understanding of it and be able to understand what that actually entails. So let's get to the basics of the piston, and then we can move on to that quasi connectivity. So as per usual, I'll start by saying that the piston needs to be crafted. It's another one of the redstone components that is going to use redstone dust, a couple cobblestone pieces, a piece of iron, and some oak planks. So it's a little bit expensive, but it's not too bad, and you're not going to need to go to the nether to make this one or anything like that. So it's pretty early game, to be honest. And as you can see, when you place them, it always is going to face you. So the face of the piston, which is that wood part, it's always going to face you when you place it. And as you can see, when we power it, the face extends, it is a piston, and if you unpower it, it's going to retract. Now in Java, this actually happens immediately. This is not true for Bedrock, so I would recommend you guys watch a Bedrock video on pistons, since there are quite a few differences between Java and Bedrock pistons. So pistons actually have a push limit. The push limit actually is 12 blocks. So here on the right side, we have 12 blocks. On the left side, we have 13. If we flick this lever, you can see that the pistons are not going to move. But if we flick this one, you can see that the pistons are going to be pushed upwards. Now, I wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about powering pistons. In Java, redstone does not directly point at pistons as it does in Bedrock. So as you can see, this line of pistons actually is not going to power the pistons in front of them. As you can see, none of them extends. However, if it powers the block right behind it, or if the redstone is sort of pointing at the back, you're gonna see that in this case it does power the pistons. Now if we were in 1.16, we could make this a redstone cross, so it will be more of an example to see that it actually is powering that block. Now another thing to keep in mind that it is kind of interesting is that pistons can actually be activated by torches that are placed next to them. So it actually can be another way that you can power on and off a piston, and it's something that you should try and keep in mind. So let's move ahead and take a look into the sticky piston before we reach the quasi connectivity. So as you can see, the sticky piston is just made by adding a slime ball on top of a piston. Now you can get slime in slime chunks, you can go to swamp biomes and they'll spawn there at night. It is kind of a bit of a pain, but if you ever can find a slime chunk and just make some a slime farm over there, you'll never have any issues with making slime blocks or sticky pistons anymore. But if you take a look at this piston over here, this is a sticky piston. Because it is a sticky piston, it's gonna stick the block in front of it, and it's gonna be able to not just push it, but also retract it with it. Another cool feature is that if you give a really fast pulse to the sticky piston, it's actually gonna spit its block out, and it is extremely useful. You can use it to make clocks, you can use it to make lots of things. So if you bring a monostable circuit, like we explained before, to the back of this piston, it will always spit the block in front of it, which is a really cool feature that we can use later on. Over here I had a little contraption that I wanted to exemplify. Sticky pistons only stick when they retract. Now it may look like they stick both ways, but the way to prove this is that when they are extended, if they were stuck, you would not be able to push this block away from it. However, you actually can, because they only stick when they are retracted. So only on the retracting motion is when the block is going to be stuck to the piston. Other than that, you can always move the block in front of it. Now it is important to remember that there are several blocks such as chest, obsidian, furnaces, that are not going to be able to be pushed. They're immovable objects, and they're not being pushed by pistons or sticky pistons or anything. You should be seeing a list of items that either cannot be pushed or have certain characteristics that make them not being able to be pushed right now. You will not have to memorize this. I mean, you'll find that most of these you're never going to have a situation to push them around, but it is also another thing to keep in mind that there are several things that are not going to be movable and you can actually use to stop several machines. Now, most of the machines that you're going to be wanting to stop are going to involve slime blocks. Slime blocks with combination with sticky pistons allow you to move objects that are not directly in front of the piston, as long as you don't reach that 12 block limit. So if we power, whoa, what was that? That was a little bit of lag. But if we power this piston, we can see that it moves the slime blocks. This slime block is sticking to this slime block, which is in turn sticking to this block on the side. So as you can see, you can move that piece of wool without having to actually be pushing it directly. So if you made it this far, we're gonna be actually looking at quasi connectivity at the moment. Now, we're not gonna go in too much depth that we could spend a whole 30-minute video talking about differences and different ways to apply this. But what I wanted to get to is a general understanding of what it actually is, what it means, and what it does. So the term quasi connectivity actually means seemingly connected. It is seemingly connected because pistons, droppers, and dispensers actually have this trait in where they are powered by a block that should not be powering them. And this can cause some issues in understanding, but in terms of Redstone, it actually gives us the ability to power those items that I said, those elements, the Redstone elements, in different ways, giving us more options when making machines. So over here I have several examples of how quasi connectivity works. As we can see, we have a lever that is going to be turning on and off this redstone torch, and this redstone torch is powering this lamp. Now, it should not be powering this piston. As we can see, this lamp is not powering the lamp before underneath it, and that is because the piston is going to detect if there is power on top of it. If the block on top of it is powered, the piston is always going to extend. And that is the principle of quasi connectivity. You can think of the piston as a door that has two height, and that if the part on top of it gets powered, the bottom gets powered. So as you can see, this piston is gonna retract and extend, even though it should not, because it's not directly powered, but because it detects the power on top of it, it is gonna do it. As you can see here, the lamp is not gonna do it. Now, what is even more mind-blowing is it actually does not lead a block on top of it. If the air on top of the piston is powered, the piston will be activated and deactivated. So it's not required to have an actual block on top of it. Air will actually power it as well. You can see here that the lamp obviously is not on. So as I mentioned, you can think of the piston as a door. So imagine the piston being down here, and this is the block of air or a block on top of the piston. It doesn't matter if you power the piston from the bottom or from the top, the entire piston is gonna react to it. So just think of the piston as being 2 blocks high when it comes to this issue in some sense. It may help understanding what's going on. There's another trait of quasi-connectivity that might be the most complicated to understand, and that actually divides quasi-connectivity or QC in two types. There is immediate QC and there is update QC. What we were seeing here is immediate. As you can see, it happens automatically as you flick the lever that the piston extends and retracts. But over here, if we flick this one, it's not gonna do it. The reason why is because it is too far. Redstone updates 2 blocks away. So if you were to flick this lever is gonna give an update to redstone piece or something that it can activate a maximum of 2 blocks away. Now, you may think, then why can I put redstone 15 blocks away? That's because each one updates the one right next to it. In this case, there's no redstone component here, so when it travels to the air over here, this is the second block of update. And moving down to the piston will be a third. Because it cannot update it, the game is not checking if the piston should be extended or retracted. Now, however, if we turn it off, which is turned off now, and we were to update this piston by, for example, placing a block next to it, the piston will retract. If we turn it on, the piston is not going to extend unless we give it an update. And that update can be actually something as simple as opening a chest, for example. Now, you may think, what is the use for that? Well, you may have seen people that place a torch on a specific spot and then a whole piston door opens, that place a button and they press it and it opens. That is caused by a piston that is powered through the air block on top of it, but it's not actually reacting because the redstone component is more than 2 blocks away. Now I wanted to showcase a few examples of ways that you can activate different pistons with immediate quasi connectivity. As you can see here, this torch is not more than 2 blocks away. It's actually going to be powering this block right here and the block right in front. So super simple, super fast. You can actually do the same thing with a half slab with some redstone on the top. As you can see, it's going to activate both of them. And over here we have some examples of the same, but for non-immediate action. So these are going to be update quasi connectivities. As you can see, when you update them, actually they will extend. And just bear in mind, this is actually really useful because it actually gives us a way to activate some redstone components without having to actually pass on a redstone signal. A block, breaking a block, opening a chest. Some of those instances are going to be able to pass on a signal, because at the end of the day you could have a redstone block over here that is going to activate a whole different contraptions without the use of a lever, a button, or whatnot. Now one of the interesting ones as well is the use of a redstone block. Even though it's right next to them, it's not going to update them. So you're going to have to actually update each one of them individually, and then once they retract, you have to update them again so they retract again. And finally, I felt like it was odd to showcase the power of a lot of the items that we put in together. And so here you have a flush Hipster 3x3 piston door. So as you can see, it's really compact. It's just one wide. It's a little bit blocks wider. So if you had the space, you could actually build this in your worlds. But as you can see, it's really nothing that we haven't seen. We have a lot of pistons. We have some repeaters on 4 ticks to do the double piston extender that is going to bring that block in the middle. That always is the most complicated one to bring down. But as you can see, it's actually really nothing that we haven't seen ever. When you see rails, it's because if you put rails, you actually will not quasi connectivity power this piston because it's a rail. So if we flick the lever, now tell me that doesn't look cool. Imagine this being the entrance to your home, and you can attach a keycard reader. You can attach a spot that you actually quasi connectivity connect this with a redstone torch, just placing it on the ground. You can do many things to open this door from either side. So really cool design, I think. Now check the video in the description. YDYT is the one that did this tutorial, and I followed it step by step, honestly, to make it. As I was running out of time for this video, I didn't want to start playing myself with a piston door. But as you can see, really compact, really nice. It's a 4-minute video, super easy to follow, so make sure that you check him out. But this is gonna be it for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed and that you learned a lot about the pistons. I thought I was gonna be able to knock out a little bit more components, but I started working more into the pistons, and I ended up deciding that it was probably enough for just one video to learn about it. But the next video should be the last one that we're gonna be analyzing individual components. We'll try and pack the remaining stuff that we have all in one video, and after that we'll start making some contraptions. We'll start making some farms, some contraptions, whatever you guys think that is useful. So let me know in the comments what would you like to see first, if you would like to see some contraptions or some farms. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by. It's always really appreciated. If you enjoyed the video, push that like button, and if you really enjoyed, please subscribe so you don't miss any of my content. Thank you so much, and have a great one. Bye bye.